We're excited this morning that we have with us David and Esther. They are part of an organization based out of Australia called International Children's Care. Their story is very special. Before they were involved in fundraising and creating awareness to help destitute children in Asia, David was driving a truck across Australia. He drove over 5 million kilometers. Please use your iPhone app to figure out how many miles that is. And Esther actually was a survivor of human trafficking, being born into some very slummy areas. She got caught up in that, and this morning we get to hear their story about how they're living out God's calling right now in their lives through International Children's Care. The reason that we've selected these individuals to share with us this morning is that we believe that many of you are going to follow a career path, and that career path may not necessarily be God's calling in your life. That doesn't mean you don't follow that career path. All that it means is that God has placed you in that environment so you can live out your calling in different and exciting ways. Wherever you are, whatever you do, you can make a difference. I'm excited to see how David and Esther's calling is being lived out in their life. David?
Good morning. This is the part of the day where you get to learn some Australian. Who wants to go to Australia? Oh, wow. You know you shouldn't come by boat. It's a long way. No, seriously, who's got Australia on their bucket list? Is that all? I thought at least 3/4 of you would want to come over there. It's a really neat place. We've got fluffy kangaroos and koalas that don't tear you to pieces like grizzly bears. ICC Australia has been caring for destitute children, families, and really some poor people for years. It's been my privilege to be a part of this organization for the last 16 years. You know, just so we get things straight, if you Google the acronym ICC, there's about 2,000, including the Inter-County Connector, the International Criminal Court, and the International Cricket Commission. There is an international children's care in this country, and we are quite different, just so we can make that clear right from the start. What I'm going to share with you this morning, we get that next slide up. I'm going to share with you a little bit. I'm just going to go straight into the work that we do because time is short. We're going to break down what we do into 3 separate and distinct areas. The first is sustainable livelihoods, then child protection and volunteering, and that's the bit you need to tune into if you want to come to Australia, because I've got some really special things to share with you later in the program. Let's start with a Bible verse. You may not have ever heard of this note before that was penned thousands of years ago by Moses, but it says, if there are any poor people in your towns, don't be hard-hearted and tight-fisted towards them. Instead, be generous and lend them what they need. It didn't say give, it says lend. Let me introduce you to a theme that we call microfinance. Just as a little bit of a snap straw poll here, who's heard of microfinance? Oh, good. We can share something new. Microfinance is essentially a way that we can unlock the trap of extreme poverty in families' lives. I'm going to share with you this story. I want to just do stories today. You don't mind, we'll just do stories, eh? None of that facts and figures stuff. So this lady here, Sonia, she's living in what you might call extreme poverty. You can see there, that's her home, her bed, the little black circle on the floor, that's her cooking pot. There's her kids hiding with her. The other 2 in the door just blew in for the photograph. You know, but her extreme poverty is such that her children were malnourished. We first got them onto a feeding program. 3 times per week, those children come for nourishment, but the mum and all the other poor mums in that community have to work in a community garden so that they can do some what we call sweat equity hours. So their labor, the sweat from their own brow, will help feed the children. The mothers do the work. They prepare the food. They get a healthy, nutritious lunch that those children can enjoy 3 times a week. One of those days is a Saturday. How curious. We're able to spend some special time with these children. As that program progressed for this mother, after about 6 or 7 months, the local municipal health nurse had given her the clearance that her children were no longer malnourished. And here she is. She's very happy. She's very proud. Her children have now been given the tick. They're in school regularly. They're healthy. And you can see he's pretty excited about that food. You know, we do take food for granted. But here is this young mother, and she is now qualified for a microloan. You know, over the next few years, we saw this amazing transformation as not only the children in this program were free from extreme poverty, but these mothers were able to start small businesses, that they would repay their money, that we would take and re-lend to other people. And so the program continued to go. This mother here, she's standing in front of basically $120 worth of stock that she's bought, her provisions for her store, so that she can make an income stream from this program. I remember getting a call from this other lady, and she'd put some notes down, and she had told us that, you know, it was the first time in her life that her family had enough food to eat. This is really unlocking those chains of poverty. We have some work that we do with microfinance in the Islamic community in southern Philippines. And by the way, we have the only Sharia law-approved microfinance program running in that country. And this is an open door to sharing Jesus Christ. Another part of the Sustainable Livelihood Program is, of course, that we have some agriculture. Now, you would note, you know, this community is a farming community, and I take good note. I'm from a farm in England, and so these are our tractors. They're pretty lean and green. They don't even use biodiesel. They don't need any. You know, we are able to grow a lot of crops. We get the children involved. They have this undying ethic that they know that if you don't work, you don't eat. And so on Sunday afternoons in some of our programs and child protection placements, these kids come and do some work, whether it's planting rice. You guys would love it. You know, you get there, it's real great earthy experience as leeches go through your toes. It's wonderful. We bake bread, and you know, these types of small but effective development programs really make a difference. On another scale, in a different area, and I'll come back to this a little later, we have some very innovative social enterprise business. Now, you may think you know about social enterprise, and that's good, and there are different flavors of social enterprise, but essentially the model that we use is the beneficiary, the person who needs the help the most, is the one that has a part in manufacturing the goods that are sold, where the profits return to them in some way or another. And so some of the products that are made from school uniforms to very locally fashionable and acceptable accessories that women like to carry around with them, and they're very happy to do that. Now, believe it or not, children are not for sale, and we're just going to have a look now for a moment in the child protection area of the work that we do. Before, let's just check out this verse, and you may be quite familiar with this passage. This may be the first time you've ever seen this in the Bible, but it's essentially a short little piece from Isaiah that says, "Remove the chains of oppression, the yoke of injustice, and let the oppressed go free." I want to challenge any of you, if you really understand this verse personally, it is because there is a time in your life, or maybe a time right now, that you've never really experienced what true freedom is. You know, children shouldn't be sold. Children shouldn't be chained. Children shouldn't suffer the indignity of rape, sexual violence, and horrendous and vile and unbelievable things that happened to them. This young girl had come to us. She was in a protection program. We were able to support this girl and get her through a court case where the perpetrator that had taken advantage of her life for an 8-month period received a 120-year sentence. These kids are vulnerable. This is a real problem. There are children entrapped today, millions of them. And yes, we need your help. In the city of Angeles in northern Philippines, we run a program called Bless Project, and you can read more about this online, and you can find these stats online, so I'm going to rip through these pretty quickly. But if I draw your attention to the third line, where a girl is raped every 6 seconds in this city, this is a major hub of child trafficking and sexual exploitation. This is a real project that helps real people with real needs, and these are some of our wonderful staff that have put themselves on the front line of helping others to do great stuff, whether it's working in communities, helping them to understand through advocacy some of the real needs, and teaching them about what it means to be safe from trafficking. There's the home that we have, the Blessed Home, and some of our girls that we love dearly and we care for. We'll just keep flicking through these slides quickly, because there are a lot of kids who are unsafe. We need you. We need volunteers, and in a serious way. Now, our programs are really neat. I've got something that I will share with you. I brought a load of these little flyers along. You make sure you pick one up, because there's some information in there about volunteering. We don't want you to miss out. But we'll just go to the next slide. This is important. I just want to take a moment to explain this through. We talk about kingdom growth. We are an organization that would be in the not-for-profit charitable sector. Yet we have the experience of being able to share Jesus with people. In the last few years, we have trained 21 Bible workers. We have grown 72 home church groups, 540 confessions of faith or baptism, and 2,200 families have been freed from extreme poverty by repaying their debts. I want to ask now Esther to come up. My beautiful wife is going to share with you a little candidly about an experience that happened in her life. Don't worry, Esther, they're not scary, they won't bite.
Well, when I was 19, I was trafficked and forced into prostitution. I was very desperate to get a job so that I can save some money and go to college. And so I applied this lucrative job to work as a singer in Japan. And on the day of our departure, they gave me a fake passport. And they told me that if you don't follow instructions, we know where your family lives. And I was so scared, I better follow what they want me to do. So on the plane, one by one, because there was a few of us, they took us on the toilet and they strapped some firearms on our bodies to smuggle across from the Philippines to Japan. And so we were taken, we were held in captive, and on our destination, there were some exchange discussions, and I was basically sold. A few months of struggling and just crying each night. I cried, and I just hoped that there is a way that I can get out of this. But eventually, I managed to escape, and because I didn't have much money, I was also caught by the authority and got detained, deported back to the Philippines. As a child, I grew up in a slum area where, our house was built on a swamp. It was filthy and smelly, and it shouldn't be a place where a person or a child should live. And every day we were just struggling, making ends meet. We were always hungry. And so that was my childhood. And when I was 12, my parents were just fighting about religion, and they eventually split up. And I was left to care for my 5 other younger siblings. I'm the eldest, and at that time, our youngest was only 2. So my dad took us in a place away from where we lived, and I had to look after them for their, had to feed them and to wash them, and I was only a kid at that time. And during this time, my mom was not allowed to come and visit us, and my dad was visiting us on the weekend. And during this time, my dad just did something really bad that he shouldn't do to a child. He's violated my childhood innocence. and you know what I mean. And so I vowed to myself that I really have to get out of this poverty. I need to get educated and get a good job so that I can help my brothers and sisters. When I was 18, I was recruited to work in Manila to work as a maid in return to go to college. And I was working and working. They didn't pay me. They didn't enroll me. And so I left that employment and I became homeless and no money, no family. And that was when I applied to work in Japan. Fast forward my life, amazing circumstances happened, and I was able to go to Australia and start a new life. I was able to study and finish my schooling. I became an accountant, and I worked and worked hard, and I even had my own business. And one day, when I visited my client, I've noticed that they're really loving, and I found out they were Christians. And so I did Bible study, and I became a Seventh-day Adventist Christian. And that year, I returned back to my country, and I confronted my dad. And I said to him that God has forgiven me, and I have to forgive you for what you did, even though that was really, really difficult for me, because all my life I really hated him. And only then, since I found Jesus, that was the only time that I found freedom, I found inner peace, and this is why I love to share with you and to help these children who are in need. And this is not my story. Did you know that there are over 3,000 children that are being trafficked each day? Each day, they're crying out, they need some help. So we want you to help us. We want you to be a part of this. So here we are. I joined my husband with this ministry, and I hope that you can do something and take your faith into action. Thank you. I'll get you back to David.
Well, you can see why I married this fine young woman, can't you? You know, I've often been confronted by the thought, what can I do? I see things that sometimes are painful and distressing. What more can I do? What would Jesus do? And I have received my fair share of conviction on what I can do and what Jesus would do. And I'm not going to put that onto you guys. But what I have for you today are some opportunities. And in some way, this is, you can call it an appeal or you can call it whatever you like. But we cannot do the work that we do without the support of people from across the world. You can rescue a child if you want to, financially. There are some of these up the back. All the detail is there. You can donate. We are a member of OCI. That means you can just basically get tax deductibility for a donation here in the States. You can talk to us today, and I encourage you to do so. Come and chat and share with us. We'll be at the Campus Ministries office between 1 and 2. And if you can't make that and you really want to have a chat and share and learn a little about more things you can do, and that time isn't going to work for you, it's okay. We'll be around for the rest of the day, and in a moment, I'll put up another slide that will have some contact details. Now, who wanted to go to Australia? Right. This is how you do it. You come on one of our volunteer teams and you find a nice Australian to marry. Hey, you didn't see that one coming. You know, don't laugh, it's true. Many. Why'd you come to Andrews? A good education and maybe a wife or a husband. Well, we're no different. Okay, so you can join ICC Australia's mailing list. You can like us on Facebook, and you can become an ambassador in your community. sharing the needs of others around the world with the people that you mix with. We'll just go to that next slide. If you can't make today between 1 and 2, you can find us at this contact. If that's too far away and you haven't got your pen, just take your phone out and take a photograph. It's the modern day here, you can do that. And just while you're doing that and taking that note, you know, just going back to the volunteering just for a moment, there's something very special about volunteering and putting yourself into a place of service, a place where you can get to do something for others in a very special way. And if you've never experienced that and you've heard everyone else talking about, I want to do a mission trip, I want to do this, that's your cue. You need to come and do that. If you go to our webpage, you'll notice we just get that slide up on the screen. You'll notice there's an American flag. That's you guys. You just press that button and it will tell you everything that you need to know about what you can do to support, volunteer, or anything else right off our homepage under that American flag button. And the next slide there, and take note of the website there. You might want to, again, just take a picture or just put that URL straight into your phone, and so that you can find us later. You can fill in a quick online form. We can get your details. We can start some communication and have you out there on one of our volunteer trips that you can get all excited about. Well, I will just finish up by thanking you very much for the opportunity of being able to come here to Andrews and share with you. And it's our great pleasure to spend a little time in your company. Thank you.